Hey folks. So last episode we went through and set up our main menu and new game process. Not starting in the editor this episode, but this episode I wanted to quickly go over just setting up a toggleable, it's a mouthful of a word to say, toggleable perspective change. So you have your third person or your first person. So first thing we're going to want to do, as you can see in here, we already have what they call a follow camera. That's your third person camera. We're going to need to add another camera. So over in our header file for our player character, we are going to copy the properties for any of our existing, well, actually we got the follow camera. We're just going to copy everything here for the follow camera. Paste a duplicate of that, and we're going to change that to first person camera. And the reason being is follow camera versus first person. It's very obvious at a code level with the naming convention of what they're for. So back in our source file, we are going to, just below our other camera setup here, we're going to go first person camera equals create default, I hit create default subobject u camera component text and name this first person camera. Now for the follow camera, it's attached to the camera boom, but we don't want that. We actually want to attach that to our mesh. So we're going to go first person camera, set up attachment, get mesh, and that just returns your base skeletal mesh. And then we want to put it to a socket, and for the Unreal Engine mannequin that we're using for now, that skeleton, well, the bone in particular, is called the head bone. All lowercase. That is important to remember. This is going to give us head bob as well. So I will be addressing that later on in the series when we start going into configurable options and things like that. Now, the other thing we need to do is first person camera, because the bone is orientation is set in a particular way. We need to set its location and rotation. Set relative rotation, and you could do a transform, but I prefer to do these individually because it lets you tweak them a little bit. So F rotator, and then we want oh, it's been a while since I've done this. I think it's minus 90 0 90. Might need to change that. It might be 90 0 minus 90. First person camera set relative location. No, well, you're not letting me set relative. No, I want to keep these as separate functions. Sorry. F vector. And we only need to make some minor changes here. I think it's what? 15.0.2.5. Again, these tweak based on your project, how you want your camera to be positioned, things like that. Now, we do also have an issue of we are going to have competing priorities and controller rotation. So the first thing we want to do is first person camera, and that is B use pawn controller rotation. We want on this camera, we want it to be true. We don't want that like camera arm to allow us to move. So we're going to just set that there. And finally, first person camera active deactivate. And that just stops us from initially having that camera activated. Now, we need to add a function in here to be able to switch between them. So we're going to go into our input section in the header file, copy any of the other ones we've got, toggle perspective. Then we need to add both a function and an internal flag. And the reason for the internal flag is we want that to also be part of save game. So view property, I'm going to copy this because I want us to see it. Bool be in first person equals false. We're going to start it as false because our third person camera is initially active. If you want to start with your first person camera active, you would, and following this, you'd have that set to true, and you'd actually have this the other way around. You'd want your follow camera deactivated, and you'd want to add first person camera active. Activate. You'd want to put that in there instead. I'm going to remove that though because I want to start with my third person. So now we've got that. We need to add the function though. So down here in where we have pretty much all of our other action functions, we're just going to go void toggle perspective. Perspective as a function. So we have toggle perspective as the action, toggle perspective as the function. Create that definition. And then in our input component, we're going to add that in. Enhanced input component bind action toggle perspective. Did I spell that differently between the two? Perspective. It should have come up with that. Nope, I spelled them the exact same. Toggle perspective, so we're good there. Trigger event. And again, this is going to be down to personal preference. I prefer to do it when the player releases the key, so completed. This, and then a reference to ATF player character. Toggle perspective. And we do have an issue. How do we want to change that? Because these are toggle camera perspective. Copy that so we have the naming convention correct and change that here. All right, so now that we've got that, if be in first person, we're going to want to return at the end of this and a return at the end of this. The return, this second return isn't necessary. I'm just putting that in for clarity of code. So if we are already in first person, what we want to do is first person camera deactivate, follow camera activate. Now, there's a couple other things we need to do, and that is, where's our construction script? That's right here. These three, they need to have different states depending on which perspective we're in. So I'm going to copy these because this little if block here is switching back to third person. However, in first person, we want all of these to be true. And we need these the other way around. We want follow camera, deactivate, first person camera, activate. All right, so just to run through what we've done, and this episode's probably going to be a shorter one just because there isn't a huge amount to this, that it's going to be short. That's where I'm getting to that one, sorry. So anyways, just to quickly run through, we have set up our input that when the bound action, which we need to create, is completed, which means we've lifted our finger off the key that is required, we're going to call toggle perspective. If we're in the first person perspective, we're going to drop back to third person. And if we're not in third person, sorry, if we're not in first person perspective, we're going to skip this and we're going to set us into first person. Well, there's one thing we're not doing yet, and that's because I completely spaced and went over it. We're not changing this Boolean at all. So, equals false equals true. Well, and the reason for this, because you could just have something like equals not. The problem here is if we're in first person, we're setting it, sorry, if this is true, we're setting it to false, which means we're going to go, actually, no, that is exactly what we need. So if it's true here, we're setting it to false. So if we're in for first person, actually, that might be exactly what we need. Sorry, my brain just went to mush on that one. Okay, so let's just step through this quickly. So if we are currently not in first person, so if this is false, we're going to set it to true. No, this is backwards. So, okay, there. If we do that, yeah, that should do it. It's a flip-flop. So we're going to build this. Now, as I mentioned, because we have this set up here in the construction script, we are attached to the mesh and specifically the head bone. That is going to cause head bob. That is where the camera moves around with the animation of the skeleton. For some people, that can cause things like motion sickness. I know in some games it's been pretty extreme I've played, and yeah, it gave me motion sickness. But we are going to fix that with a configuration setting. Actually, I'm going to do that right now. Do we have a begin play for this character? We do. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to grab this edit anywhere you property. And this is just for now. Bool b use head bob equals true to start with. And then b if, if not b use head bob. We want f vector new relative location, new rel lock equals get mesh bone, get bone, where is it? Get bone transform. Get bone transform, we want head, it's going to take the name. Okay, we want override e relative transform. Yeah, I think we want actor for that. Dot location. First person camera. What do we want to set the attachment point to? Set up attachment camera boom. Do we don't want to use get mesh? Root component would work. So anyways, new relative location plus equals Emma get relative location, and then first person camera set relative location new relative location. So I'm pretty sure this is all we need here. So just done that, we're going to do a build. And this is why, like, it's the whole reason for this, as I mentioned, is the head bob can cause some people to get motion sickness. It's something I would recommend if you are looking at a true first person perspective. Allow the player to decide if they want head bob or not. Don't just force it on them. I've played quite a few games that I've mentioned, like, I've had some pretty severe head bob, especially when you're like running. That can give you motion sickness. So, all right, that build succeeded. So we're gonna launch up the editor here. Now, the use of head bob is going to cause some problems if you want to add in a lean feature, or sorry, not using head bob could cause some problems if you're trying to use a lean feature. But come on, let me get this open here. Why are you being so slow? All right, so here we go. So you can see our first person camera. I actually screwed up these values. We want the X to be minus 90. We want that to be 0. And we want that. So what is 0 and what was minus 90 need to be inverted. So we'll just go down here. Set relative rotation. So it's 0 minus 90. And then let's check our position. Our position is off as well. So trying to move things around because of the head bob is going to be a little bit of a problem. So I'm just going to change this over quickly to use an animation asset. Puts the skeleton mesh in a default pose, and then you can move things around a little freely. So we want this to be more about here where you can just see the head. So it's 15, 20, 2.5. I missed that 20. If I undo that, that was 0. Yeah, okay. So 15, 20, 2.5. I was close with my numbers. Back in the editor though, so we're going to go 15, 20 just for our default. I'm going to compile and save that. Before we minimize that, I'm going to bring our content browser over. Input, actions, any of these work. Let's duplicate the interact. Duplicate, IA, toggle perspective. Going to click save on that. We're going to go back to our mapping context. I hate how it does that. IA toggle perspective, and for me, I am going to bind that to the V key. Save that. Close out of this. We'll go back to our content browser quickly here just to reselect our toggle perspective. Move that out of the way. And just type in toggle in the search on your main details for your blueprint or your character. And just do that. Okay. So now I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to hit play, and let's watch this implode because I've messed up. Oh, our camera boom is all messed. Why is there... What happened there? Did I make some code changes to those? No. Why is that all messed up? Okay, something got screwed up here. So follow camera. Apparently I rotated that at some point. When did I do that? Let's try this again. Oh, well, I forgot to change the mesh, but we're going to hit V. And you can see we're in here. We're moving around. Hit back. And our camera is working. Okay, so let's go back here. Select our mesh and make sure we put it back to using our animation blueprint. Let's try this a second time. Well, third time. Okay, so here you go. You can see our normal third person behavior is working. If we hit V, we can look down, we can look up, and we can't, like, as we turn, we're not able to, like, get weird angles. We can run. Oh, well, we have an issue here. We're using the wrong trace source because if you notice, we can't pick up this mushroom. So we need to fix our line trace source. Other reason for that, the Boolean. So now it's hard to see because it's not got a severe head bob, but you can just pick it out. So because we set that on begin play, what we need to do is actually change that in here. So head bob, I'm going to turn off use head bob. Compile and save. Now it is in the editor, it's still attached. That's not a problem. We're not concerned there. I'm going to hit play and see if this breaks everything now. It did. Ignore changes. Continue. Are you going to let me continue? Yeah. Okay, push V. And that did break the head bob. So, okay, something in there is breaking the head bob. What did I screw up here? Let's figure this out. Actually, I am just going to do this. No, that's not what we need. Okay, we want first person camera, get relative location. Cut that out. We're going to set that is our temporary location. Don't need that. First person camera. Okay, well, we do need to fix our line trace as well. So I'm going to make sure everything is saved. It is. I'm going to close out of the editor. So with that, let's just look at our toggle perspective quickly so we know which one. So if it is false, we are using the first person camera. If it is true, we are using, sorry, if it's false, we're using the follow camera. If it's true, we're using the first person camera. So up here, let's see where we're, that's right here. So what we're going to do is F vector trace start and F, sorry, that's float search length. So what we're doing here is we're predefining some floats, some values here, and then we're going to go if be in first person. Else. This is one of the few cases I'll actually use an if else. So trace start. If we're using the first person camera, we're going to trace start equals first person camera get component location. And I actually think that's what we need down here. Anyway, so fix that. Else. Actually, no, we don't even need to do that. We can use this method. Get rid of that. Come on, get rid of those. Equals be in first person. Else follow camera. Get component location. And then Okay, so what have we got for our search length here? Search length is camera trace component location. So equals B in first person equals first person camera. Get component location dot length, else it is this particular logic here. Copy that, throw that on the end. Actually, I'm going to put that on a separate line. Using the wrong control character. It's colon, not a question mark. So we can replace the LT start with trace start. So it's here and here. Any other use trace LT start? I don't believe so. And search length, we are actually replacing it. So I can just get rid of this one. Okay, so what this has done is basically we're switching. If we're in first person, we're basing it off the first person camera. If we're not in first person, we're basing it off the follow camera, which is what we want. And then let's take another quick look at FB use head bob. This, I think, is our problem because we're attaching it to the root component. We'll have to see when we get back into the editor. But this may take a little moment to compile. I'm not sure. Oh, we have a build error. Search length. Oh, it wasn't because I couldn't spell length right. No, I have that. Oh, yeah. I have to. That would be the issue. Apparently, I can't spell. Well, I know I can't, but. So, we'll try this again. But yeah, say this may take a bit to build because we did change this line trace logic as well as the begin play. I don't think so. Yeah, there we go. We may need to make some changes back in the editor, in the blueprint, just for the camera. Simply because it's all over the place. All right, so let's open up our blueprint here. Why does it always open on that monitor? Go to our viewport and we'll check our camera settings now just to make sure. Again, focused on the crotch. Okay, you're still good. You're still good. All right. So with that, one thing I will point out, because it's caught me in the past, it's not noticeable now because we have these set here. They're the exact same values. But you may make some changes here in the code, do a complete rebuild, and it's not reflected here in your blueprint. It's because your blueprint changes override the code. So, okay, so let's give this a shot. We're going to hit play. Is it going to throw a... Okay, so got that there. Head bob is false. And yeah, that set root component attachment is the problem. I'm like 99% sure. So, hit V, and yeah, it's all over the place there. That's nasty. Oh, what can we... Capsule component. Okay, that's what we can use. Get capsule. And that is... Yeah, that's the one we want. Okay, let's do a live recompile here. And just see how bad that is. And if this doesn't work, I'm actually going to remove that for now. Just because I don't want to leave some code that's really broken in there that is going to cause more problems than it's worth. So our live code succeeded. Let's give this another try. Okay, let's see. You're going to ignore changes. Oh, we didn't throw an exception there. Okay, so let's do that. Head back to the editor and let's see. Do we jump into the sky? Yes, we do. Okay, so that is a problem with our logic here. First person camera, get relative. There's maybe an application or component. If this is a component, let's try this one. So again, we'll do a live compile. I'm actually going to remove this breakpoint because we know this part is working. It's just setting our location. So let's get rid of that breakpoint. Our live compile just succeeded. Let's try this one more time. Well, we still got the head bob. Let's see. Might have to remove an attachment. That could be the problem. Yeah, it's still attached to the mesh. First person camera. Attached to component. Get attached parent. Validate is attached to. Set up attachment. Initial there. Actually, I know what we can do. I'm going to stop the code here. Stop the live debug. Else. First person camera. Set up attachment. Get mesh. Is that going to work, or do we have to put that into the construction script? We're down here. All right, let's launch the editor again. Once I get this working, there is one other thing I want to do. It is I won't be this episode actually looking at the time, but I want to add in like your lean so you can look around corners as well. So play an editor. What? Breakpoint. Okay, that's got to be in the construction script, which is not what I want. V. Yeah. Oh. I might just remove this head bob logic because it is not working the way I want it to. Okay, we want that one, and then we want that one for here. Let's try a live compile. Yeah, so one of the other things I want to do is, as I was saying before things started working there, I want to also include lean. That's like where you can lean around corners. I know it's a very common aspect in first-person games. You can upload this time? Are you going to work? Yeah, it's not working. Let's walk over here. And you can see we're actually able to move because the attachment isn't there. Character. No. Oh, what is the... Yeah, it's not attached to anything, so... Yeah, just for ease, because I don't want it to drive me insane while I figure this out. We're going to get rid of this head bob stuff. So I'm going to just bring this part back out, throw it back in here, and get rid of all this. I'm going to leave this Boolean in place. However, tooltip. Oh, what did I add that in? That's the Chrono Manager. Make sure I get that right. Currently does nothing. Adding this in just for, well, in this case, my future self, or as I mentioned in other episodes, if you're ever thinking you're going to have a team that you're working with, that helps at least potentially catch any issues with, like, oh, this doesn't do anything. Well, there's a tooltip that says that. So anyways, let's rebuild this quick. I just want to hop into the editor and make sure I haven't made anything implode with this one. And actually, I will try to think what else here. So as I mentioned, next episode is going to be the look around corner lean. So it's like you can use the Q and E. That's why our interact key is actually bound to F. And then I'm trying to think what else. And I'm trying to think what other minor things I want to get wrapped up before we start the first build attempt, which is going to be an episode all on its own. Because building a project from C++ is actually a little more involved than it is using just blueprints. So, yeah, we're going to launch play quickly here, though. Okay, so we have our third person V. We have our first person. V again. I want to turn the camera this way. And you can see we jump to the perspective we have. And that the reason for that is we are setting the state of the use controller rotation. Personally, I just don't want to fight with that. You can see here we can pick up log. I gotta figure out why that is still messing with our UI. I haven't fixed that yet. That will be another episode with some cleanup. We can't pick up this log because we have a full inventory count. So close out of that. Go over, try our door quickly. Our door opens. You will notice in some games, doors open both directions. Again, I don't want that unless it is a door that intentionally has bidirectional. Like the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is saloon doors. But either way, though, with that, folks, I'm going to end this episode here. It has taken a bit of a weird turn. I thought I was going to get that head bob stuff worked out. However, I'm going to look at that between episodes and figure out what's going on there. As I mentioned, next episode, I'm going to try and get our lean, like the left-right lean in. And if there's a little bit of time there, I'm going to just populate our dev map just quickly. Let's open that up so we can have a look, because I only briefly covered it last episode. But yeah, so as you can see, we have a very... I'm going to change that landscape between episodes. That is nasty. We have a very basic, incredibly simple map here. We're going to add a few things to it, so at least our first build isn't horrible. But from that, folks, or with that, folks, I should say, thank you again for watching. As always, any comments, questions, suggestions, concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I reply to every comment I get. If you have any suggestions for ideas you want to add in or you would like to see added, or potential one-off tutorial episodes, just so I can fill some time, again, please feel free to leave those in the comments. I'm not promising I'm going to do those. However, I'm starting to get to that point, as I mentioned in a past episode, past intermission, that I'm slowly hitting a point where it's going to take me longer and longer between episodes because of out of project planning. So if there's any ideas you have for like a one-off tutorial, let me know. If it's not an insane amount of work, I may throw an episode up for that. I do have some other ideas for one-off tutorials I'm going to do, again, just so I can try and keep a regular upload schedule, but not always going to be working on the project because I do need to spend some time planning things there. So anyways, folks, this will be, I think, my third attempt at ending the episode. So as always, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, questions, concerns, suggestions, throw them in the comments below. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next episode.